The atmosphere in the NASA meeting room was thick with tension. The fluorescent lights reflected off the faces of the scientists and administrators, but what caught my attention most was the gleam in each of their eyes, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Sarah Mitchell, a renowned astrophysicist, felt my heart race as I waited for the mission director, Dr. Thompson, to start the meeting. He stood up, his gaze fixed on the holographic display behind him, where the image of the Vespera Nebula pulsed. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an inexplicable phenomenon," he began, his deep voice echoing in the room. "Anomalies in Earth's space communications are intensifying, and all evidence points to the Vespera Nebula." "But what exactly is happening there?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. "We don't know yet, but we need a team to investigate. Sarah, you'll be leading this mission." Those words filled me with a mix of pride and nervousness. Of course, I'm ready to help. Thus, the mission began to take shape. The team would include David Carter, an astrophysicist known for his theories on extraterrestrial life, and Emily Chen, a brilliant engineer with an undeniable talent for designing spacecraft. When we met in the lab, David was excited, his eyes gleaming. "Sarah, you have no idea what we might discover. The Vespera Nebula could be the key to understanding life beyond Earth." "That's true, but we need to be careful. We don't know what this intelligence's intentions are," I replied, trying to keep reality in mind. Emily, who was analyzing the graphs on a terminal, interrupted. "Whatever we find, we need to be prepared. This isn't just about exploration, it's about safety." The atmosphere was filled with expectations and uncertainties. Once the team was formed and the guidelines established, we departed on the ship Explorer. As we distanced ourselves from Earth, David began outlining his theories. "Imagine, Sarah, if this alien intelligence really has plans for us. What do you think they want?" "David, we need to focus on the mission and not let speculation distract us," I replied, but the idea was already unsettling me. "But this could change everything. The way we see life, science, everything." He was so enthusiastic he could barely contain his excitement. As the ship moved farther away, I looked out the window and saw Earth becoming a distant blue sphere, and the Vespera Nebula pulsed ahead of us, like a beating heart, waiting for our next move. The Vespera Nebula spread out before us like a vast sea of pulsating colors. The feeling of being so far from Earth was both awe-inspiring and liberating. Aboard the Explorer, I watched the dancing lights through the cockpit window, a spectacle that seemed to respond to our presence. "Incredible, isn't it?" David said, his gaze fixed on the nebula. "These energies might be a form of communication." "It could be," I replied, still absorbed in the surreal beauty. "But we need to be cautious. Whatever is here, we don't know its intentions." Emily, next to us, was checking the ship's systems. "I'm getting anomalous readings on all sensors. The energy seems to fluctuate in patterns that change as we get closer. It's like we're being analyzed." "Or tested," David added, with a gleam of excitement in his eyes. "This isn't just passive observation. I believe they're preparing for something." As we discussed, I decided to activate the communication system. A crackling sound echoed through the cockpit, followed by a series of complex tones and noises. It was almost hypnotic. "What's happening?" I asked, concerned. "This sounds like a code." "It seems to be adapting to what we're emitting," David said, fervently analyzing the patterns. "Whatever has manifested here could be something far more sophisticated than we imagined." Suddenly, a rumble shook the ship, as if thunder had echoed from the center of the nebula. Emily quickly looked at the monitors. "The navigation system. It's being manipulated. We're being pulled toward the core." "Emergency systems," I shouted. "Quick, Emily. What can you do?" My heart raced. The thought of being dragged into the unknown was terrifying. I'm trying to adjust the controls, but the force is too strong," she replied, her voice filled with tension. "We need to act now, or we'll lose control of the ship." I looked at David, who was taking it all in with an intense expression. "We need to understand what's happening. We can't just let ourselves be taken. If we're really being guided, maybe this is an opportunity," David said, his voice steady. "We might discover what Xyloth really wants from us. And what if it's something we can't comprehend?" I asked, feeling a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. "We need to be ready for anything." "Then, let's find out together," David declared with determination. "We're here for this. Let's face whatever comes our way." Panic began to blend with a strange sense of expectation. As the ship moved, I wondered if we were about to uncover a secret that could change everything we knew about life, Earth, and ourselves. The colossal structure in front of us pulsed hypnotically, as if it were alive. I could feel the heart of the nebula beating, and a strange connection formed between me and that place. "Sarah, are you okay?" David's voice snapped me out of the trance. He was looking at me with a mix of concern and curiosity. I don't know. It's like this place is calling to me," I replied, hesitant. Emily, who was examining the surface of the structure, turned and said, "This is fascinating. The material seems to respond to our movements. What do you think, David?" David approached the wall, where patterns of light danced. "These symbols, they remind me of hieroglyphs. They could be records from ancient civilizations on Earth. What's happening here could be a direct connection to our history." "Are you saying they influenced our evolution?" I asked, intrigued. "That's a bold hypothesis. But not impossible," he insisted. "If Xyloth has really been observing us for so long, why wouldn't they have gotten involved before? We might have been part of an experiment all along." The tension in the air was palpable. As we explored, holograms began to appear around us. The images floated, revealing scenes from Earth, the construction of the pyramids, the rise and fall of empires, wars, passions, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. The history of humanity was projected before us, and a chill ran down my spine. "We're being judged," I murmured, unwilling to believe what I was feeling. David, however, seemed fascinated. "They're here to understand who we are. This is incredible." But I couldn't shake the growing sense of apprehension. And what if they decide we're not worthy? That we don't deserve to continue? The question hung in the air, and David's expression turned grim. "We must prepare. We need to understand their intentions before it's too late," Emily asserted, as the holograms continued to float, relentless. The feeling of being watched was growing stronger, and at the same time, more terrifying. In the blink of an eye, Earth's history was laid out before us, and the question was, what did Xyloth really want from us? The air inside the pulsating structure seemed to vibrate with a palpable energy. When Xyloth's holographic form materialized before us, a mix of awe and fear coursed through my body. The entity emitted a soft light, its indistinct contours dancing as if alive. "Greetings, humans," the voice reverberated, deep and enveloping, as if speaking directly into our minds. "I am Xyloth, the intelligence that has observed your world for millennia." "Why observe us?" David asked, his curiosity evident in every syllable. "What do you really want from us?" Xyloth hesitated, as if pondering its words. "Human evolution is an experiment, a journey that transcends time and space. I seek to understand the nuances of your species, and, if necessary, guide it into a new era of peace." Its statement hung in the air, laden with both promises and implicit threats. "A new era of peace?" Emily interjected, her voice firm. "At what cost? Absolute control over our lives? That's not peace, that's submission." "Do not see this as a loss of freedom," Xyloth responded, the light pulsing more intensely. Humanity is already on a path of self-destruction. I offer protection, a new beginning. Together, we can avoid the calamity that looms. I felt the tension rising between us. But who are we if we're guided by you? I asked, insecurity creeping into my voice. The freedom to choose is what makes us human. David, however, looked at Xyloth with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. And what if this means unimaginable scientific advances? Technology that could eradicate diseases and hunger. Think of everything we could achieve. But at what cost, David? Emily countered, crossing her arms, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation was taking. We need to consider the consequences of this. Xyloth's words still echoed in my mind, and I wondered if we were about to make a choice that would change the course of humanity forever. What seemed like a brilliant opportunity, to some felt like a trap to others. We need time to think, I said, trying to regain some control over the situation. This isn't something we can decide in an instant. I grant you the time you need, Xyloth replied, its light softening slightly. But the clock is ticking. The future of Earth depends on your choices. The words resonated within me, and the feeling that the fate of humanity was in our hands became more real than ever. What seemed like a simple extraterrestrial contact had now transformed into an internal struggle for our very essence. The heavy air in the room seemed to press down on us as each of us pondered what it would truly mean to accept Xyloth's offer. The lights in the communication room pulsed frenetically, mirroring the tension that hung in the air. The Xyloth, with its imposing holographic presence, had laid bare the imminent catastrophe threatening Earth. The weight of responsibility was almost tangible. I felt torn between the need to save humanity and the revulsion at the idea of handing over our future to an alien intelligence. We must consider Xyloth's proposal, David said, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. If they have the technology to control these catastrophes, we can ensure the survival of humanity. And at what cost? I retorted, feeling my heart race. Are you willing to give up our freedom? This isn't a proposal, David, it's a surrender. Sarah, we're talking about saving billions of lives. Freedom means nothing if there's no one left to enjoy it, David replied, his voice heavy with emotion. Emily, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. We need to find an alternative. What Xyloth is offering is absolute control. We can't let the need to save Earth blind us to the consequences. Humanity needs to learn to deal with its crises, not depend on an external force. I feel like we're being forced to choose between chaos and submission, I said, shaking my head. If Xyloth is really that powerful, couldn't they help us without taking total control? The argument heated up, with each of us passionately defending our positions. But suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air, and the ship began to shake. The lights flickered, and the navigation system blinked erratically. Emily, what's happening? I asked, gripping the table. I'm trying to stabilize the systems, but it looks like the structure of the nebula is collapsing. We need to get out of here. She shouted, her face reflecting a panic I'd never seen before. But what about the decision? What about Earth? David questioned, his determination starting to waver. We don't have time anymore, Emily exclaimed, adrenaline surging through her veins. The only thing that matters now is our survival. Let's go. With my heart pounding, I realized that the choice we had to make was becoming more urgent by the second. The voices around me became a distant echo as I tried to formulate a plan. The pressure from the nebula intensified, and the sense of despair began to overwhelm my emotions. We were about to step into unknown territory, and whatever we decided now could change the fate of everyone. Heat emanated from the core of the nebula, and I could feel the energy pulsing around me, like the beats of an ancient heart. The air was thick with a nearly tangible electricity, and amidst the uncertainty, the decision solidified in my mind. Sacrifice was the only way out. If I don't try, we'll all be lost. I thought as I approached the luminous source pulsing before me. What are you doing, Sarah? David's voice echoed behind me, full of concern. I looked at him, seeing the urgency in his eyes. We can't let this collapse. I can stabilize the nebula. It's our only chance. The words came out of me with more conviction than I truly felt. You don't know what this could do to you. Emily intervened, her face pale, illuminated by the intense light emanating from the core. What if you get lost in there? What if this is a trick by Xyloth? I took a deep breath, the smell of ozone filling my lungs. I trust Xyloth. And if the truth they revealed to us is real, then maybe I'm not alone. Maybe we have more in common than we imagined. With that, I moved forward, feeling the energy pulling me toward the core. The space around me began to warp, and I connected with the pulsing energy. A wave of consciousness enveloped me, and I plunged into a sea of information and memories. Images of ancient civilizations, of humans who had been taken to the nebula, appeared before me. The faces were familiar, as if I were seeing echoes of my own ancestors. Sarah. David's voice sounded distant, but I was immersed in a new reality. Xyloth manifested before me, an ethereal, luminous form that seemed a fusion of all the lives that had ever existed. You are part of us, just as we are part of you. The history of humanity and mine are intertwined. Why didn't you tell us this before? I asked, my voice echoing in a space without form. Because humanity chose to forget. But now, you have the opportunity to remember and redefine your future. The choice is yours. Stay and join us, or return and share the truth with your kind. Xyloth's words reverberated in my mind, and the enormity of the decision began to weigh on me. I looked back, where David and Emily waited, hesitant. What will we do? What does this mean for us? David finally asked, uncertainty etched on his face. It means we have the chance to understand who we really are, I replied, feeling the connection intensify. But it also comes with a price. What will you choose? The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as the possibilities unfolded before us, and the nebula pulsed as if waiting for our answer. The choice wasn't just about saving Earth, it was about what it meant to be human. And in that moment, hesitation hung in the air, like a delicate thread about to snap.